Okay, so on behalf of the Restaurant Association, welcome everyone. We're really excited and really appreciative that we can do this webinar today. We have Leanne Bartlett with Labor Skills and Immigration joining us today. She's going to present first. And then following that, we will have Hariana Brooks from Immigration, Refugees, Citizenship Canada joining us. And both have presentations that they can share afterwards, which is fantastic. So we'll make sure you get copies of those. I will do just a few really quick housekeeping. We're going to let our two presenters present first, and then we're going to open the floor up for some Q&A. We will not record the Q&A portion for the presentation today. And all I ask is that maybe we'll just do like the hand raise when you have a question, and I will moderate that and we'll get those questions answered. Where this is being recorded, if you want your camera on, that's fine. If you prefer it off, whatever you are comfortable with. So with all of that said, I'm going to hand it over to Gordon Stewart very quickly. He just wants to say a few notes to the industry. So over to you, Gordon.
Okay, hi folks, welcome. I'm glad you could join. I know quite a few have signed up, so I'm assuming that a lot will probably watch the presentation afterwards. Just a couple of quick notes is that, as you all know, we're in a labor shortage, and not just a labor shortage, but a serious labor problem that will stick with us for a very long time. And my prediction right now is at least a minimum of 5 years. So it is going to be a long, tough road. It will be much more painful than COVID. And it will have far more lasting effects around our industry, more than just the labor side. It'll, as you know, you can already see some of those effects in shortening days, hours, all kinds of things. So it's going to change the dynamics of our industry. But at the end of the day, there are things that we can do and you can do to try to help mitigate that. And we're working on a number of those. And this is kind of one of those today. And one of the labor pool is actually immigration. There's no question that it's probably the largest potential labor pool for us right now. So anything you can learn and glean today and ask questions as follow-up will be very important to you. Immigration will be an important piece of our labor pool in the industries, as some other sections will, but this is very important, and it's important that everybody kind of tune into this. So stay tuned and enjoy the seminar. Thank you.
All right. Oh, sorry, Leanne, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Gordon, and thanks, Natasha. Thanks for having me here today. And we're here to support the industry with the provincial immigration programs that we have. Today, I'm going to focus on the Atlantic Immigration Program and just a little bit about myself. Well, so we are the Nova Scotia Department of Labor, Skills and Immigration, and we are the Immigration and Population Growth branch within the department. And I'm part of a team that provides employers with support, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, helping businesses, restaurants, use our provincial immigration programs to meet labor market needs. I'm sure many of you know that our provincial government has set a population growth goal of 2 million by 2060. And when you break that down on an annual basis, that's attracting 25,000 new people to Nova Scotia per year. And yes, it will be immigration, attracting people here from other parts of the world, but also our mandate has expanded. We are also wanting to attract Canadians and permanent residents from other parts of Canada. I'm actually trying to get my brother and his family here. They live in Alberta. We're all originally from Newfoundland, but he moved out to Alberta years ago, and I'm trying to get him back east. It's not working so far because he has 2 teenagers who do not want to move, but I'm going to be persistent. So 25,000 new people moving to Nova Scotia per year, a combination of immigration and domestic recruitment. In terms of immigration, it is a shared jurisdiction. And what that means is that we have provincial immigration programs, as do other provinces and territories, have provincial immigration programs as a result of agreements that we have with federal immigration, IRCC. And we have these agreements so that we can have a say in who we want to immigrate here, live here, work here, and build their lives here. So we endorse candidates, we nominate candidates based on those approvals. Those candidates then apply to federal immigration for permanent residency. That's the ultimate goal. And also apply to federal immigration for work permits if needed. So want to ensure you understand that federal immigration decides who gets permanent residency and who gets work permits and other types of temporary resident permits. Before I start talking about the Atlantic Immigration Program, I wanted to speak a little bit about the National Occupational Classification System. I expect that most on the line are familiar with this system. It's essentially, I like to describe it as a big dictionary of all occupations in Canada. And occupations are organized, classified based on skill level. So you have your high skilled occupations, your intermediate skilled occupations, and your entry level occupations. Knowing the NOC skill level of the job that you're offering, knowing the NOC skill level of the candidate that you want to recruit helps determine that candidate's eligibility for immigration programs. I'll also note that this system, as it is today, is changing. A new system will be launched in November. The concept is the same, where occupations are organized based on skill level. However, some positions may no longer be eligible for certain immigration programs. And our office is currently working on some communications that we would send out to businesses, send out to associations like RANDS, also post information on our website about the new NOC system, what it will look like, and how it impacts the Atlantic Immigration Program, potentially our Nova Scotia nominee program. So stay tuned for that. Also wanted to mention, when you want to use one of our provincial immigration programs to recruit a foreign national, we want to see, and although it has been very much documented in the news, and Gordon Stewart has been on the news, I've seen him on the news, read the news articles, we know that there's a huge need in the industry. We do want to see you're posting your jobs, right? And you're posting them everywhere. So we want to see, as part of an application to our office, copies of those job ads, 3 different places for 4 consecutive weeks. I'm sure you all have that covered. In cases where you do not have to show job advertising, is the person's already working for you on a valid work permit, or the person that you want to hire has an open work permit, like an international grad who has studied at a Nova Scotia institution, potentially, completed those studies and has this special post-grad work permit. In that case, you would not need to show proof of job advertising. And the third situation where you would not have to show us your job ads is if you have a labor market impact assessment from the federal government. So us seeing a copy of that labor market impact assessment would be sufficient. Want to note that if you do want to hire an outside organization to help you find workers, ensure that you use a recruiter who's licensed in Nova Scotia. our labor standards division within our bigger department, they are the ones who assess those applications of potential recruiters and make decisions on those applications as to who is authorized to recruit to help find workers for Nova Scotia businesses. So there is a list of licensed recruiters posted online. So I wanted to make you aware of that. Now, let's turn to the Atlantic Immigration Program. It's an innovative approach to immigration in this country where it's you, the employer, that actually leads the application process with our office, and that will make more sense in the next slide. Also wanted to highlight that there's a unique feature of AIP, and that's a settlement piece, a settlement component, because not only do we want to attract more people from around the world to come to Nova Scotia and work in our businesses and live in our communities, we want people to stay. Right now, our retention rate is about 71%, and it has been for some time, so it's stable, but obviously we want it to increase, and there's improvement, right? So in terms of the settlement component of AIP, each candidate that you want to support through AIP, that individual will contact a settlement service provider. It could be ISANS here in Nova Scotia, it could be the YMCA. There's a list of organizations that will do needs assessments with candidates. And as a result of those needs assessments, there's a settlement plan. So that is the product, a settlement plan that will help the candidate and the family, if there's a spouse and children, help them integrate into life and work in Nova Scotia. Okay. This is what the process looks like. If you want to use AIP to help meet your labor market needs, you first have to apply to become a designated employer. It's like you're registering with our office to be able to use AIP. We do have an online application system, and I'll actually show you some screens of that system in a little bit. At the designation stage, requirements that we look at is the business has been operating under current management for a minimum of 2 years. We also check to ensure that the business is in good standing with Nova Scotia labor standards, with occupational health and safety. We do an assessment to ensure that there's a genuine labor need. Those are the requirements that we look at the designation stage. Something else that we want employers to do and include in their designation application, we want businesses to contact a settlement service provider like ISANS, the YMCA, there's the Cape Breton Immigration Center. Contact a settlement service provider and ask what programs, what settlement programs and services are available in your respective community, in your respective region, to help newcomers and their families settle. So with that information, you can help the candidates that you are recruiting. In the designation application, there's actually a section where you would identify what settlement service provider you contacted and what information was shared with you. An employer is approved as a designated employer through your own recruitment efforts. You find a candidate or candidates that you want to recruit and support through AIP. The second step is that you would submit an endorsement application to our office for each individual that you want to recruit. That endorsement application will include, of course, the job offer, that settlement plan that the candidate will get, the settlement plan that I spoke about earlier. As part of the endorsement application, we also want to see that you've completed the required training that's part of AIP. There are essentially 2 courses that will need to be completed, and proof of completion would be part of your endorsement application. The 2 courses are onboarding training offered by IRCC and intercultural competency training, which is offered by ISANS if your business is in the Halifax, Greater Halifax area. If you're located outside the Greater Halifax area, then it's the YMCA that offers that intercultural training. So endorsement application from the employer for a particular candidate. Endorsement application includes various documents. If that endorsement application is approved, then the candidate proceeds to apply to federal immigration, IRCC, for permanent residency and a work permit if required. So first 2 steps are businesses working with our office. Third step is endorsed candidate applies to federal immigration for permanent residency and, if needed, a work permit. This is the section on our website that talks about AIP, and you'll see that blue Apply Online button towards the bottom of the screen. That's where you go to apply for designation. And if you're approved as a designated employer, you click on the same Apply Online button to submit endorsement applications once you have identified the individuals that you want to recruit. So it's the same portal for both designation applications and endorsement applications. You click Apply Online. It will take you to this screen. You would go to the Atlantic Immigration Program side and click on Apply Online. If you don't already have an account, you create one. It's your email address and you create a password. So once you've done that, you have an account, you've created an account, then you'll see this. This would be your dashboard. And you go to apply for designation, go to applications. If you're already designated, then you will also be able to submit endorsement applications. This is what the designation application looks like. So it has different sections there, as you can see. So you just fill in each section and then submit. And the same would be the case for an endorsement application. You would see a list of sections. And with the endorsement application, because it requires supporting documents like the settlement plan, the job offer, information on the candidate, there is the opportunity to upload documents. Shifting gears, wanted to make you aware of this potential opportunity, a potential opportunity to find workers, and you may know this already. You do know that Ukrainian nationals are arriving in Nova Scotia every week, and most adults, I would say, are arriving with open work permits because of the special initiative through the federal government, IRCC. And so with those open work permits, they can work for almost any employer in any job. We are providing funding to the YMCA to help support Ukrainian nationals when they arrive. Help Ukrainian nationals settle, access services, and find employment. So on the YMCA's website, there's actually a section there where if you are interested in employing Ukrainian nationals, you express your interest on the YMCA website. You put in the business name, contact person, hit submit, and then the YMCA will follow up with you to get more information about your specific job opportunities. So wanted to make you aware of that. Also want you to know that we're trying to help you. Oops, just 1 second here. We, as an office, as a branch, are trying to help you find talent. And we're doing it through recruitment events that we participate in. And we just recently started going back to market. We started in March of this year. We physically go to other provinces, other countries, and participate in these recruitment missions. We're there to promote Nova Scotia, lifestyle opportunities here, and employment opportunities here. And so far this year, internationally, we've been to UAE, Singapore, the UK. We're there in market talking about Nova Scotia, competing with other provinces and countries for workers, but we're there promoting Nova Scotia and talking to candidates about Nova Scotia as a preferred destination to live, work, and build your family. So there could be opportunities for you as restaurant owners to participate in these events. There are events where employers can actually come with us. It would be your cost to travel, accommodations, and meals, but our office would cover the cost of the space in the venue where we would be promoting Nova Scotia. There could be events where there's not the opportunity for employers to come physically with us, but you could give us your job postings and we can take them with us to market. So I just wanted to stop there, and maybe once we get to the Q&A, if people would like to provide some feedback, what we would like to know is what would be barriers to you physically going to market with us, whether it's to Ontario, which we have been, or internationally to other countries. What would be a barrier for you to physically come with us? So just keep that in mind, and when we open it up to the Q&A, I'd like to get your thoughts on that. And I'll just end by talking about the employer support team. I mentioned this at the beginning of the presentation. I'm part of a team here at Immigration and Population Growth. A big part of our job is helping you as businesses understand our provincial immigration programs, help you use them, answer questions that you have, guide you through the process. That's what we're here to do. We often say that, yes, immigration can be complex, but our team is here to help make it easier for you to the best of our ability. That is it for me. And Natasha, when you send out the presentations, mine and Hariana's, I'll get you to include my contact information. So if employers wanted to reach out to me directly in the future or tomorrow, whatever the case may be, that they can.
That's great. Okay. All right. And you're all done, Leanne? Okay.
I am. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That was very, very, very helpful and valuable information. So to all the participants, as Leanne sort of reiterated there, just hold on to your questions and feedback, and we'll get to those shortly. We're going to seamlessly transition over to Hariana Brooks with IRCC. And welcome, Hariana, and I'll open it up to you.
Thanks so much, Natasha, and thank you both Natasha and Gordon for organizing today's session. It's truly a delight to get to be here and be able to offer you potential solutions or options for your labor market needs. We know it's drastically in demand, such as, Gordon has mentioned today, but like Leanne has mentioned, we're really here. She's there for the province, and me and my team are here for you at the federal level. So before I get into the presentation itself, I do want to mention that this is available in French. So if you prefer that, feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to share that with you. And if you do have questions in French as well, feel free to submit them. So just to give you a little bit of context about myself, myself and my colleague Cindy Lynn Furnett are the outreach officers in the Atlantic region. So essentially what we're here to do is promote economic immigration programs and initiatives and really help employers navigate the immigration system. So we know it's daunting. We're here to give you a little bit of a hand through that process, provide you with some options for your specific industry or the occupations that you're looking to hire for. So following today's presentation, I will be providing you with this email address. So if you do have questions that you'd like to speak more in depth about offline, I'd be happy to do so, as well as my contact colleague, like I mentioned before, Cindy Lynn Furnett. She's in New Brunswick. So if you do have any branches over there, she is your best contact as well. So just to give you a little bit of perspective, this is just a little overview of the entire immigration system. So foreign nationals can come to Canada either on a temporary or a permanent basis. Temporary residents are those who are issued permits to allow them to work, to study, or visit for limited periods of time. Of course, today's presentation will be focusing on temporary workers. And I do want to highlight that permanent residents, on the other hand, are those who are authorized to stay in Canada long term. And most of them have the same privileges and rights as Canadian citizens. So I won't speak too much about the NOC, since Leanne did a great job of explaining it. But essentially, this is your guide to knowing what programs are eligible for your candidate. So when you're reviewing all of the immigration programs, once you've defined the NOC, this will let you know what doors are available for those candidates to come through, both on a work permit basis as well as on a permanent basis. So when you're looking to bring someone to Canada, you need to determine what the need is. If it's a temporary or immediate need, employers often hire candidates through our two main work permit pathways, the International Mobility Program and the Temporary Foreign Worker Program. Alternatively, you can hire a candidate through filing a permanent residency application. However, these applications tend to take longer upfront, so typically employers will hire somebody on a temporary basis and then look to process their permanent residence application a little bit later. So one of the main concepts that I need you to be aware of, and Leanne briefly spoke about it, is the labor market impact assessment. So this is a process that's completed by Service Canada. So employers will submit off applications to this department to essentially state that they tried to hire a Canadian citizen or permanent resident prior to pursuing hiring a foreign national. So like we all know, there are major needs in this industry, so it's not going to be that hard to demonstrate that you did try to hire a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident. It is just a process that we do have in place just to ensure that everything is equal across the board, and we have gone through the process of reviewing that it is in fact the case that there is a genuine need in that specific area of Canada. So like I mentioned, two main pathways for temporary residents for work permit pathways. And the main difference is that one requires a labor market impact assessment and the other does not. The one that we'll discuss first does need the LMIA, and this is the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, and it is the most frequently used program. On this slide, you'll see a process map of all the steps that will need to be taken in order for a candidate to pursue this program. The very first step is that the employer will determine which stream to apply under. So through ESDC, there's the high wage stream, a low wage stream, as well as agricultural streams. After that, they'll submit that application for the labor market impact assessment to ESDC. Assuming they agree with you that there is indeed a need, that applicant, the candidate that you would like to hire, can submit off a work permit to IRCC. And that's traditionally done online, and that could be done by candidates that are either in Canada already, perhaps they're on study permits or visitor records, or perhaps they're overseas. They're more than welcome to submit that work permit application after that LMIA is approved. As you'll see in the cost section, the employer is responsible for that $1,000 LMIA fee, and that cost is per position. I'll also mention that it's up to the employee to pay for that work permit fee as well as their biometric fee. The other main temporary resident option is the International Mobility Program. This program is offered to candidates that are exempt from that labor market impact assessment. Before I give you some examples of those exemptions, we're going to take a look at some of the steps involved in this pathway. So the very first step is to determine which is the LMIA exemption that applies in this situation. Once that's been identified, the employer will then be able to access IRCC's employer portal, and they'll be able to create what's called an offer of employment. In this offer of employment, the employer will essentially outline the wages, the amount of time that you wish to hire the candidate for, etc. Once that's completed, the candidate themselves will be able to apply for a work permit. So as you've noticed in both of these pathways, there's a portion that's completed by the employer. Once that's completed, then the candidate will be able to submit off their work permit application. You'll also notice that this is a cheaper program. So the employer compliance fee is what the employer would have to pay. So that's the $230, and it's the exact same fees for the candidate themselves. As promised, here are some of the examples of the labor market impact exemptions. So the Atlantic Immigration Program, I will just highlight that there's an opportunity for AIP candidates to receive a work permit. These work permits are considered labor market impact assessment exempt on the basis that we have provincial agreements in place to facilitate this. Other opportunities that are great for your specific sector would be the International Experience Canada pathway. And we're actually doing an information session on Thursday on the specific program, and I'd be happy to share some information on that specific opportunity. And essentially, for that specific pathway, you've probably heard of, especially Australians or people from the UK, they come to Canada for 1 or 2 years, and then vice versa, they allow us to go there for 1 or 2 years. And this is specifically for youths under the ages of, I think it's between 18 and 35. So that can be a great opportunity because a lot of those times people aren't looking for full-on careers when they're coming to visit Canada. They're looking to have more seasonal opportunities, and that could be great for your sector as well. The other main exemption that I want to point out is Mobilité Francophone. So this can be great, especially if you're located in Acadian-heavy communities where French is spoken more often, but this is essentially another labor market impact assessment exemption, specifically for candidates that use French on a daily basis. So the employers themselves do not have to be French speaking. It's just when they go home and they call their family, perhaps they're using French on a daily basis, or they have a high proficiency of French. These candidates would be eligible to come through this specific pathway. The The reason for this specific exemption is because Canada has a commitment to increase the number of Francophone immigrants outside of Quebec by 2023. Keep in mind that having French-speaking employees can also have additional benefits. It allows you to expand the populations that you serve, both inside and outside of the country. And switching gears a little bit, I do just want to highlight the global skills strategy. So an effort for IRCC to support Canadian businesses in attracting top talent to work for their companies, we created this strategy, and the 4 pillars were developed within this strategy. So 3 of them fall under the responsibility of IRCC, and the last one's held with ESDC. This strategy allows for certain applications to receive faster application processing times, work permit exemptions, as well as enhanced customer service. The main area that I'd like to point out that would be applicable for many of you would be for the priority processing. So employers that would like to benefit from priority processing, the candidate must be considered high skilled. So this would be talent such as NOC 0 or A occupations, and the application must be submitted from outside of Canada. So just to give you a little bit of a concept of who would be considered high skilled talent is NOC 0s include management. So if you'd like to hire a new manager for your specific restaurant or somewhere within your industry, that might be a great opportunity. HR executives, they also can come through the NOC A. So this is something that you should keep in mind, is that they would be benefiting from priority processing. Lastly, I'd like to highlight some employer responsibilities. So as discussed, depending on the work permit program used, there will be a component that the employer will need to do. So either they'll need to submit off that labor market impact assessment application, or they will need to submit that offer of employment via the employer portal. Employers are responsible for reviewing candidates' work permits and making sure that they are authorized to work for you. This means confirming that you are aware of the expiry date on the work permit, and you'll also want to confirm that the document outlines that they can work for you. If you want to continue to have this candidate to work for you past their work permit expiry date, you could also support them to extend their work permit status, or perhaps support them through permanent residency. So perhaps you have somebody on a work permit application, you'd like them to come through the Atlantic Immigration Program, and then you completely forgot everything that we've stated in this presentation. That's when you're more than welcome to reach out to us and we can walk you through the process again. I'll also point out that similar to tax documents, employers are responsible for retaining all documents related to the foreign worker's employment with you for 6 years after the date of issuance of the work permit. So this would include offers of employment, contract changes, as well as payment invoices. Lastly, on the slide, I've highlighted again my email address. So if you'd like to reach out and talk a little bit further offline, feel free to reach out. I've also linked our main hiring immigrants webpage, which is also available on our website, as well as our info sheets, which just gives you a high-level overview of our programs. And I'd like to say thank you. This has come to the end of my section of the presentation. So I welcome any questions that you guys do have.
Thank you, Hariana. That's, again, we really appreciate you taking the time to do the presentation today. We'll move into the Q&A. I think probably the best approach is if you want to do a hand raise, we can go that route. Please feel free to put some questions. I already see some in the chat box, and we can go that route as well.